Hello everyone, welcome to the ITLS Academy. Today I am taking the second topic under the bioinstrumentation. Let me remind you one thing that it is a sterilization technique, and we have done our video in sterilization on the sterilization technique. So do refer to that video also. It is the second part of that video, and in that previous video of sterilization we have discussed about the different techniques related to this sterilization, and one of the equipment of autoclave that depends on the moist heat sterilization has been done in that video. It is linked with this, so do refer to that video also. This video, in today's lecture I am taking in continuation that video of sterilization, and taking the second instrument of hot air oven, which depends upon the dry heat sterilization. Okay, let's start with our lecture. Hot air oven is commonly used for dry heat sterilization. Dry heat sterilization is a method of controlling microorganisms. It employs higher temperatures in the range of 160 to 180 degrees Celsius and requires exposure time up to 2 hours depending upon the temperature employed. These are used for rapid evaporation of materials, rapid drying, and for sterilization of articles that can be sterilized by dry heat. Dry heat sterilization technique requires longer exposure time of we can say 1.5 to 3 hours and a higher temperature than moist heat sterilization. It is a sterilized equipment and material used in medical field and different laboratories. A hot air oven is a type of dry heat sterilization. Dry heat sterilization is used on equipments that cannot be wet and on materials that will not melt, catch fire, or change form when exposed to higher temperature. Moist heat sterilization uses water to boil items or steam them to sterilize, and does not take a long time as this dry heat sterilization. For example, examples of items that are not sterilized in the hot air oven are surgical dressings, rubber items, plastic materials. These are the items which cannot be sterilized under the moist heat sterilization, that is in the autoclave. Items that are sterilized in hot air oven includes the glasswares, petri dishes, flask, pipettes, powders such as starch, zinc oxide, materials that contains oil, metal equipment such as scalpels, scissor, blades, etc. Glass tubes can also be sterilized using a hot air oven. Hot air oven use extremely high temperature over several hours to destroy the microorganism and bacterial spores. Next is the types of hot air oven. Let's understand how many types of hot air oven are available in the market. There are two types of hot air oven: dry heat sterilization, that is the static air type, and the forced air type. The static air type is referred to as the oven type sterilizer, as heating coils in the bottom of the unit cause the hot air to rise inside the chamber via gravity convection. This type of dry heat sterilizer is much slower in heating and requires longer time to reach sterilizing temperature, and is less uniform in temperature control throughout the chamber than in forced air type. The next is the forced air type. The forced air oven is more effective than the static air oven. The forced air oven or mechanical convection sterilizer is equipped with a motor driven blower that circulates heated air throughout the chamber at a very high velocity, permitting a more rapid transfer of energy from the air to the instruments. This helps to prevent the hot air from rising to the top of the oven and keeping the cooler air at the bottom. The fan keeps the hot air moving around at a consistent temperature throughout the oven, which is not be possible in static air type. That is why the forced air type hot air oven are usually preferred, and they are good in comparison to static air. Okay, let's discuss about the principle on which the hot air oven depends. Sterilizing by dry heat is accomplished by the conduction. The heat is absorbed by the outside surface of the item, then it passes towards the center of the item layer by layer. The entire item will eventually reach the temperature required for the sterilization to take place. Dry heat does not damage by oxidizing molecules. Dry heat does most of the damage by oxidizing molecules. The essential cell constituent are destroyed and the organism dies. The temperature is maintained for almost an hour to kill the most difficult of the resistant spores. Next is the working, how it works. Use the most common time temperature relationship for sterilization with hot air sterilizer are 170 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. We can sterilize it for 160 degrees Celsius for 60 minutes and 150 degrees Celsius for 150 minutes or longer depending upon the volume. The contents must not be removed from the oven immediately as a slow cooling period is necessary. Ideally, when the temperature has reduced down to 50 degrees Celsius, but not less than that. The reason for the gradual cooling period is to avoid the cracking of glasswares as well as preventing air that could potentially contain contaminating organisms entering the oven. Okay, let me tell you, uses of generally hot air oven. A dry heat cabinet is easy to install and has relatively low operating cost. It penetrates material, it is non toxic, does not harm the environment, and it is non corrosive for metal sharp instrument. Let's see the standard operating procedure of hot air oven. The main aim is to lay down the procedure for operation of hot air oven. The steps are: connect the power supply. Next is to switch on the main power supply and instrument main. Then then we have to set the temperature. Uh, temperature setting button is available on the bottom of the instrument in front at the left side. Press set point key to set the required temperature. Press increase the temperature or decrease the temperature. Buttons are available showing the upward arrow and downward arrow. You have to press it and set the temperature required for the uh, sterilization. The temperature sensor will maintain the set temperature, which is indicated by the blinking of set temperature on the display screen. The duration of time can also be adjusted using the time adjustment knob. Then, after use, switch off the power supply. The next is the cleaning. It is a general procedure one should know about the instrument. The cleaning can be done. You have to wipe the surface, walls, top, bottom, and trays of the oven with dry lint-free cloth on daily basis so that there will be no dust particles in the oven. Wipe all the parts and outer surface of the oven with wet lint-free cloth soaked in purified water on weekly basis and fill the weekly cleaning. The safety guidelines you must be knowing about the hot air oven used for glasswares, forceps, swabs, water impermeable oils, waxes, powders. Before placing in hot air oven, dry glassware completely. Plug test tube with cotton wools. Wrap glassware in craft paper. Don't overload the oven. Allow free circulation of air between the materials. If you overload the oven with too many equipments inside the oven, then it may be come in contact with each other, and the dry hot air will not be able to pass in between the materials. That is why, to for free circulation of air, it is needed to be not overload the oven with the equipments. Okay, how can you check that the that your instrument is working properly, means it is doing right job of sterilization? There are generally two methods taking to check whether the equipment is working properly. First is the chemical control. A brown tube color change from red to green. It is a chemical method. A bronze tubes are available in the market, which is when kept in under the oven, it turns into green, which shows that equipment is shows the indication that whether it is working properly or not. The second method is the biological control. Paper strips containing 10 to power 6 spores of Clostridium tetani. Place strips in oven along with other materials for the sterilization. Later, culture the strip in thioglycolate broth at 37 degrees Celsius for 5 days. If growth in medium shows, it indicates the failure of sterilization. And if the media is not showing any growth, then it could be considered that your equipment is doing its work properly. It is sterilizing the equipments at the right temperature and in the right way. Okay, what are the main advantages of using hot air oven? A dry heat cabinet is easy to install and has relatively low operating cost. It penetrates material, that is, whatever the equipments are kept inside it for sterilization, the hot airs penetrates the equipments and sterilizes the equipments and materials properly. It is non-toxic and does not harm the environment. It is non-corrosive for metals and sharp instrument. It eliminates wet pack problem in humid climates. The disadvantages of hot air oven is it is time consuming method because of slow rate of heat penetration and microbial killing. High temperature are not suitable for most of the materials, as I have discussed earlier, that it is not used for those materials which generally be sterilized by autoclave. Plastic rubbers item cannot be dry heat sterilized because temperature used is 160 to 170 degrees Celsius. That is too high for these materials. Dry heat penetrates material slowly and unevenly. Thank you for being with us. I hope you have enjoyed the lecture today. And for more information, please log on to our website www.itlsacademy.com and register yourself for summer training program.